Hello and welcome to PDAC 2024. We're here on the CEO.CA stage, and I'm delighted to be hosting a panel discussion with three esteemed gentlemen here, the rediscovery of discovery. We're going to talk about how important discoveries are to the mining industry, what are the challenges, but also what are the opportunities, and why do discoveries actually matter, and why should we focus on them? Lots to discuss in a 30-minute time frame, and we'll get to it in a second. Michael Thompson of Kesselrun Resources. We got Doug Cavey of Defiance Silver, and of course Ian Harris of Outcrop Gold and Silver. Gentlemen, instead of just reading off a script here, I'm going to have you introduce your companies real quick, 30, 60 seconds, keep it brief, but also let us know where on the Lassonde curve your company is right now.
Thanks. So Outcrop Silver has its flagship project, which is Santa Ana in Colombia. It's primary silver, high grade. Last year we put out our initial resource, but we're very much still in the resource development stage. So pure exploration, but focused on adding ounces.
Fantastic. Doug, where are you?
Defiance Silver is a Mexican-focused company, trades DEF on the TSX and TSX Venture. So we have two projects. They actually fit in two different spots on the Lassonde curve. We have one that's sort of in the discovery phase where we're drilling in Zacatecas State, and it forms part of the world-class Zacatecas district, and we're the second largest landowner there. And our other asset is a Topal asset, and that sits on the sort of the second rise of the Lassonde curve. So it's post-discovery, pre-feasibility or preliminary economic assessment, just that advanced discovery phase or the advanced resource drill out phase. So kind of exposure to both sides, beginning and in the last wave.
Fantastic. We can cover both aspects then, the pre-discovery and post-discovery, how important that is. Fantastic. And Mike.
Kesselrun Resources, KES on the Venture Exchange. So we have two assets, 100% owned. A brownfield sort of project. It's a gold project, past producer, historic resource on it. We just started working in the 2020 timeframe, getting the drilling, getting that resource up to snuff. The second project, more of a green project, greenfields project, earlier stage, lots of potential, gold as well.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that introduction, gentlemen. Thanks for keeping it brief there as well. Let's set the scene a little bit. I think we need to talk about, what is a discovery first? Maybe just define that, because that word is being thrown around like crazy. Like everybody uses it. I'm not really sure if they use it in the right context. So curious, I'm going to ask all three of you what your definition of a discovery is. Maybe Ian, starting with you here.
So just as background, I'm a mining engineer, I'm not a geologist. So for me, a discovery is when you hit lakes of grade that could be potentially economic, right? So that's the reason we are here is to build future mines. So a discovery would be something that has a significant legs that has potential to become a future operation. Fantastic.
Where do you draw the line for a discovery?
Well, I think you got to scale it to the project as well, right to the project level. And I agree. At the end of the day, exploration is to find new mines. And so discovery needs to be finding, on the path to a new mine. But that discovery could be, a total greenfields discovery in the, way off. And what you're doing is building out the knowledge and advancing the project forward with the same idea that you're going to find that economic mineral system in it. Or it could be, a brownfields discovery where you're in a mine site and you're testing something that if, the adequate resource build out goes there. I really do think that it does get thrown. Well, I agree with you, Kai. It does get thrown around a lot, but I do think there is, room for interpretation. That's going to take the company to explain what that really means. Why is it a discovery?
Absolutely, Mike, and maybe to extend on that, for a discovery, do you need to use the drill bit to sort of make a discovery, or is a soil sample already a discovery?
Well, I don't think soil sampling moves the needle too much in a news release for the market, but that is integral in actually getting ready for drilling, right? You got to develop the target adequately and eventually test it with the drill, right? That's the truth machine.
Yeah. And did discovery, Ian, you're a mining engineer, where do you draw the line? Define maybe an economic discovery as well, just so we have an understanding of that term.
Well, there's a long pathway to go from a discovery all the way to a mine, and we have stages of resource development and a project development and then actual construction. So for me, though, it's the earliest stage project, but it adds some legs, right? So 1 centimeter at 1,000 grams is not a discovery because you're not going to be mining 1 centimeter. So for me, it's the overall length and width of an intersection that goes, this has potential. This has the potential to become a part of a future mine. Oof, right? So it has to, I guess it's a little intangible exactly, but I think most of us know through experience what has the potential to actually become a future resource and then a future.
Yeah. Mike, do you think the art of discovery has been lost in the sector as of late over the last 10 years? And that's a very broad question I'm asking. So there are many aspects to it, but I think it's a good starting off point for future points there.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of companies go back to old projects. You know, I know I can get numbers. I know I can excite the market, right? So rehashing old stuff. You know, there's tons of gold showings. As an example, we're in northwestern Ontario. There's gold showings everywhere. So if you go and drill something again and again and again, sure, in the right market, you can get a little bit of traction. But so eventually you need to do something different, something new.
So working on a brownfields project is not really a discovery. It's part of the title is rediscovery. Like, is that have companies focused too much on that? Has the art of discovery been lost, Doug?
Absolutely not. No, I think there's what we're seeing now is a lot of new science, young, hungry people that are really driven to make discoveries and operating with a sort of a different capacity in terms of the data that's being collected, how the data is being analyzed, and then the knowledge of these mineral systems. And so I actually think that maybe it's if you're using the term art, maybe it's more of a renaissance, because there was a period of time where there just wasn't that critical mass going into the discoveries, and they're being made across the industry from majors with big exploration teams to small companies like that are still driving the art of the science of discovery.
Fantastic. I want to touch on like two aspects you mentioned. A is talent management, but also technology advancements as well. We'll talk about those. But Ian, like the art of discovery, like how did you get influenced by that? Like how is that an impact at Outcrop?
So I would like to just take a small step backwards. You made it sound like it's almost a function of the people don't care anymore, but it's really a function of market. Market needs to reward a discovery. And I think we are coming into, there's a feeling in the air, right? It's been a couple bad years. It's been a tough market. But when market rewards, I think there's the energy, there's the intelligence, and there's the ability to make new discoveries. So in terms of Santa Ana, it's interesting because we are multiple veins, right? We're actually drilling out ore chutes. So our first resource was on 6 individual veins, but we have 22 ore targets. So in those cases, each individual one is like a mini discovery. The ability that, okay, we have the trenching, we did all this work, there's the sampling, there's et cetera, but until you put a drill bit into it, then you're not sure if it can convert into a future gold resource. So we're constantly in a discovery type mode because we need to create a pathway to demonstrate a much larger resource.
Fantastic. Like the state of mineral exploration right now is challenging. We discussed that, and I don't think we've seen a lot of discoveries. Like maybe lack of focus. You mentioned, or one of you mentioned, like grassroots versus brownfields exploration as well. Mike, maybe for you, is like what is the biggest challenge then, and why did people turn away from discovery exploration, like the grassroots exploration where you can actually make a true discovery? Why have people focused too much on brownfields? What are the proper challenges?
I think that's, getting the market's attention is a huge challenge. So I think, bull markets, you've got a bit more freedom to go a bit more green fields and where you're going to make the new discovery. So, I think seeing a lot of success from Osisko at Malartic, that was a brownfields discovery essentially, right? Reinventing a new look at an old mine site. So a lot of success in that.
Yeah. Well, Doug, you mentioned a couple of things. I do want to follow up on his talent and technology to a degree. But besides that, what are some other big challenges the sector is facing?
Well, I think mining as a sector is historically and it's going to be a stiff climb to get away from being an out of favor sort of industry that has not a great track record in utilizing best practices with serious cause for harm to community and harm to projects and investments. So I think the explanation of the timeline and the lifeline of what an exploration project means and why are you going to a place to explore and what does that mean, and at the end of the day you're trying to find a mine. And so that social understanding of exploration and the social understanding of mining is somewhere that if you don't focus a lot on that, you're going to find that there's going to be struggles later on in the project lifeline. So a lot of projects do become dead in the water that are great assets, that could be great mines, or could be great advanced exploration projects that because of either social license or environmental concern, they don't make it to that next level. And it's up to us as a mining industry to make it understood what we're doing. What is exploration in the lifeline of everything? So at the end of the day, we're trying to find a mine there. And if we have economic success, we're going to try and build a mine there. And that needs to be, very well understood, I think, by local stakeholders.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Fantastic. No, I appreciate that answer there, Doug. It's quite honest and forthright as well, because it is a big challenge. And we're seeing a lot of headwinds in the sector, of course, as well. Ian, like we always talk negatively about mining and discoveries as well. Like what's a positive example of a discovery where a discovery actually changed the landscape in a positive way? And I don't mean landscape topographically, but the mining landscape.
Well, I had the luxury of, I was previously senior VP at Corriente, and took a project all the way to feasibility and even started the construction of that project, and actually got to see positive impact that could make. In this case, it was an entire province where the GDP of an entire province tripled for time. Fruto del Norte was also right next door, so you had two larger scale projects, and you could really see a transformation happening when you start the technical work from the very beginning. And so the reapply, if I look at Outcrop, for example, at Santa Ana, we are going to be looking at doing something very pilot level, just to have the ability to demonstrate how things work, but also to start capacity building and training to maximize the benefit locally, because that truly can have a big impact on the areas, a real, true, positive impact. Very generally.
Fantastic. No, I appreciate that. There's a lot of positive. I don't think we talk about enough about the positives. It's always easy to point out the negatives. It's clickbait. It works well, but we don't talk about enough about the positives, in my opinion. Right, Mike? Like, what has changed in mining and mining exploration over the last 10 years? What are some of the trends you've picked up, in particular, to making a discovery?
Well, I think the technology has changed so quickly. I think getting people up to speed on that new technology. I'm a bit of an older guy, and so that's a big challenge for me. But use a simple thing like the Starlinks. That's changed things immensely. Communicating with small crews, remote. Downloading data. For safety purposes, everything has changed it just like that, and that's just one simple example. So.
You brought up talent. I want to talk talent, and technology we'll talk about in more detail, because I want to talk about AI as well. But Doug, you brought up talent as well. Is there enough talent actually around to make a discovery? Is there enough qualified talent?
I think you can always have more. It's a small industry that needs to grow, and so to think that there's an opportunity for more talent to step into it. So there's more innovation requires talent. Ideas require innovation and new ideas to make that 10-year quantum leap in exploration, because there's been 1 or 10 or 20 years, the last 10 or 20 years, and it kind of sat with sort of the same process for a long time. And the basics are still the same. You're still kind of following the same path of what you're doing. It's just what kind of item are you inserting? What piece of data are you collecting? And if there's more people doing that, then we're going to screen a lot more deposits and make a lot more discoveries.
Now, I tried to find some data ahead of this panel discussion about how many graduates are actually graduating with a geology degree. Impossible to find. Couldn't find it, like out of Canada in particular. So I was curious, like what the trend there is as well, because there seems to be a lack of talent as well. Like the show just started. There's usually a ton of students walking around with their CVs in hand. So I'm curious what the feedback is this time around, if they are around and if they're looking for jobs. So technology, I think we need to spend a bit more time on that. And you brought up Starlink, for example, which I think is a massive improvement, especially in remote regions. Ian, like in terms of technology, what are you using at Outcrop, and what are some of the technological advances over the last 10 years that helped make exploration maybe easier?
I'm going to kill two birds with one stone of talking about something that I think has dramatically changed over time, the way that we look at projects. Because I think historically it was raise some money, go do some drilling, raise some money, do some more drilling. And then, we can do a feasibility study, and then we go, let's go talk to the people about this, right? So a lot of that de-risking, socially, environmentally, metallurgical, whatever it is being done sooner and sooner of the project. The social content has to be getting from just to do prospecting on a project. And so if you look from a technological perspective, one of the things that we really look for are ways that we can be more transparent in the work that we do on the ground in a quicker way. And it's actually one of my boxes I'm going to try and check off while I'm here at PDAC, is to find out what is the new technology available to be more transparent in the way we do it. And in more of a real time and a transparent one.
Interesting. Do you have an example for that? I'm just curious, because you can have WhatsApp groups, you can have Slack groups, of course, where you can probably invite the community to participate. But give me an example. I'm curious, what that could look like.
Okay, so first of all, you have to understand what is the communication core most common that is used. Again, for example, in In Finland and Colombia, it's WhatsApp. And it's WhatsApp. So that's how a lot of information gets exchanged. So just knowing that, like even just in hiring of people, that was a big part. But the other is, okay, if you're doing conversations or health checks or these kind of things, that information was automatically available on some sort of platform or the see in real time. So it's a combination of two. What is the form that they're comfortable with communicate, and then also ways of getting that information out quicker and faster and more transparent.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll walk the trade show floor later as well. I'm curious any of the software providers are around to manage that. It's interesting. Mike at Kesselrun, what kind of new technology are you using, or what kind of changes have you seen in the last 10 years?
Well, I mean, when I started in the industry 30-ish years ago, we were doing things the same way 50 years prior. It was all notebooks. It was old school exploration, right? And my grandfather, had he been a geologist, was probably doing the same thing. So now, everything's digital. We're using tablets, cleaner data recording. As I said, the Starlink, drones, we've got our own LiDAR drone. We've got a magnetometer and a drone. So we're doing a lot of detailed work that very quickly to assess things. The drones are helping our access instead of wandering through the bush, trying to figure out where old drill pads were, roads or whatnot. You fly a drone quick, you know where the outcrops are, you know where the access is, saving time and money.
Doug, maybe you can help me quantify that a little bit, like saving time and money. Like, what does that really mean? Because I know you're using like drone technology and other things as well. Like, how is that really improving? Like, how is it changing things?
Faster you can de-risk an exploration project, the better for anybody. And that's what I think is the best technology out there is, like capturing everything clean, XRF on site, TerraSpec on site, figure out where you are in the mineral system so that you go to the right places on site. We have the tools that you can be mobile in the field using them. 3D modeling, like try and figure out your geologic model, get that 3D modeling done as quick as possible. You can do it on the fly. It's not as much of an arduous affair. I'm not by any means the person that is modeling the data, but being able to then figure out where you are in the mineral system, use all the tools at hand, and they're around, and we'd like to try them all. And the other one that we're really keen on and is a little more advanced, but the oriented core drilling. Oriented core drilling is awesome. Triple tube oriented core drilling. I hope I never have to work on a drill project without that again. It just tells you so much data about just everything that you're looking for, and then you just put that in your 3D model and hopefully drill another discovery.
Fantastic. Awesome. And we sort of laid the groundwork talking about discoveries, technology. Well, I want to talk a bit more about talent in a second as well, how we can attract talent to this sector. But first I want to discuss a little bit more like why we haven't seen more discoveries in recent years. I feel like there's been a shortage in discoveries. And maybe Ian, you can elaborate on that point a bit. Why haven't we seen more discoveries? Like not a lot come to mind.
I was on a panel at Columbia about new energy, the energy transformation. One of the reasons was they're saying, well, what is the industry doing to manage that potential shortfall? You look at a lot of different metals. What is the industry doing? And the funny part is it's really not our responsibility to be filling that gap, right? We're actually interested in metal prices go up. It makes our projects more profitable. But the real reason is because market hasn't rewarded, right? There are some, if we even just look around, there's been a few companies that have done well with really good numbers, but in the general sense, right, it's not rewarding. It costs a lot of money to drill, and unless you are creating more value than you're spending, then market is telling you it's not a good idea. Independent, if on the cover of Economist is talking about the critical metal shortages that are happening, if market doesn't reward it, that it's not going to happen. So I think it will change, but I think also the market itself is changing, right? I think there was more focus on just a discovery in the past, and moving forward, it has to be thinking, or how does this actually become?
Like economic discovery is, you got to add the word economic maybe in front of it as well. Like Mike, a similar question to you as well. Like, is it just impossible to make a discovery right now, or is are we looking in the wrong places?
No, I think there's been lots of discoveries. It's just the market's not rewarding it, and I think it's the attention span of the market. Think about the 90s when you had Voisey's Bay and you had all the diamonds going on. Like it was hot, Things were hot during the 90s. But how did investors get that information? They got it at the PDAC. They got it in the mail. This is pre-internet. Now data is there on the internet for you to get the technical reports, the presentations. You can assess things, and you're in and out. So,
Doug, I know you're active in Mexico. I know that's where your focus is. But if you weren't in Mexico, if you had a world map, where would you go right now to make it brand new discovery?
It's a great question. I personally like the idea of a project that you can kind of see a timeline with. And if you're talking about a discovery, like you've got a drill discovery or you're trying to make a greenfields discovery, where can you get it to the next stage, and is that achievable? And so I'd probably be picking, some island arc porphyry copper, big systems, but you get a lot of sort of associated systems as well, probably somewhere in the Philippines or Indonesia. Pretty locked up terrain, but as you get into the back arc behind them, there's probably a lot of potential around there. And then I'll just say north and south of Mexico, because there is a ton of geologic terrain. Look for big limestone packages, reactive rocks, and big intrusive centers, and you're going to find that's what the big discoveries that are being made right now. And look for the type of economic potential, like what is the chance of this thing becoming a mine? And these epithermal systems, VMS systems, like they contribute to some of the largest mines globally, and they can sometimes have a shorter timeline, but big porphyry system, if you're drilling that out, then you got to be thinking what's 15, 20 years look like on this thing.
So similar question for you, Ian, as well, but you're the mining engineer, you're the mine builder. Where would you build a mine?
I knew you were going to ask that question.
I saw you mentally prepare for it as well.
Yeah, mentally prepare is where could you actually get a mine built, right? And so I truly believe you could build one almost anywhere, right? If you do it the right way, right? And I think the error in the past perhaps was people were getting to the end of the finish line, and then they started thinking about these items. And I think it's becoming earlier and earlier and earlier, the social, environmental, and the development of political will are happening much earlier in a project cycle, right? And it's really more of a diversification of our own talent. I mean, I'm a mining engineer, geologist, but I know that we're also got a big environmental, social, metallurgical context to the work that we do all the time. So it's incorporating more skills earlier into a project.
Mike, what type of discovery do we need to attract the general audience back to the mining sector?
A ridiculously economic one that's just going to spit money out. That's it. I mean, Voisey's Bay, to Arequipa, like going back. So I think there's lots of good examples without going through the half dozen that have been in the last sort of end of the last boom cycle and into this, whatever this cycle is called. You just need something that excites the market. Voisey's Bay, the diamonds, something new. And it caught the attention of the market, and it was a boom.
Okay. I want to come back to talent. I think that's a really important topic in our sector, and the lack of talent. Why aren't they here? Like, what is the mining industry not offering right now that is attractive enough to attract young people? Like, Doug, you're next up in line here again, and you brought it up, but like, where's the discrepancy? Like, if there is any?
Well, I actually think that there is a positive change, and it's occurring in sort of a handful of locations where you're seeing the benefit of being able to make a good living, being able to access new education, and mine sites are providing more of a family-friendly environment, which I think is absolutely the most crucial thing, is to not try and separate people from their families. And like, that's going to keep people happy. If they're able to live this fulfilling life where they're not stuck on a mine site by themselves, isolation away from their family, and people don't think that they're going to be trapped away from anybody. And I think that in order to attract talent, also you have to promote diversity, but also innovation, and make it interesting. Make it so that you're showing up to work and it's just interesting, and it's a challenge every day, and you're not just sort of stuck in the monotony of things. And these brownfield discoveries have been happening a lot over the last 10, 15 years. They're being snapped up by companies that have this progressive, we're bringing families into camps. Fly in, fly out jobs are actually, your family can come up here. This is your house up here. And that is, those discoveries are being snapped up by teams that were living away from, site, or living away from their families for like 6, 12 weeks. So new innovation, positive growth with these companies. And of course, like, you have to attract the salaries. We have to compete. We have to compete in the global market. We want the top engineers. We have to pay the top engineers.
Ian, what can we do to foster more? Like an environment that Doug described, but also just foster more innovation and discovery, like drive towards discovery.
I normally come in a little bit afterwards, right? But I think when we talk about talent, sometimes we have this old image of what talent looks like, and it came from the United States or Canada or et cetera, but you have to understand that most of the talent on the majority of the projects are coming from locally. So really it is more about attracting talent locally and being able to create capacity, right? And so it's actually part of our business is creating that talent, right? Diversity is a great word too, because diversity helps with innovation, right? You get new ideas and new thoughts and new approaches. But I think it's not just attracting talents from the biggest universities in North America, but it's also about developing that talent in the places you work, because it's a part of making the maximum amount of benefit locally. And I'm keeping my answers short, but obviously got a lot of different type of examples, but it's developing and creating talent where you want.
Fantastic. The last question I'm going to ask all three of you, and it's going to be the last one of the panel here as well. And what do you think the mining industry will look like in 10 years from now? Let's start with you, Mike, and we'll go around.
I think the markets are going to start moving again. I think we're going to go into another commodity boom. I think as everybody's been talking about, embracing that technology, diversity, local workforces, geologists. I'm an exploration geologist, so instead of importing Canadians or Australians to, Africa or South America, they're going to be local talent, more cost effective, more open.
Fantastic. Doug, same thing. How do you envision the mining industry to look like in 10 years?
Well, I think we're on the cusp of a lot of technology kind of being dropped into the mining industry right now. It's going to bring up, typically the advances in the past 50 years, we're still doing pretty much the same kind of mining, just with technological advances on recovery and sort of safety issues in mine sites. How do we get more ore out of the ground safely with, different mine design? But at the end of the day, a lot of, it's like the pirate ships are getting loaded up with concentrate and floating across the Pacific. So I think you're going to see a shift in where metals are going and the supply chain of metals and the knowledge of where those metals come from, so tracking the metals and basically blockchaining from production to the buyer. I also think that mining industry is going to rapidly change face because of the really horrible accidents that we've had on a number of mine sites, very high-profile projects globally, Canadian companies or international companies, but well-known, publicly traded companies that have had just absolute disasters. I think that we're going to have much more scrutiny and public eye, and there's going to be a court of public appeal on a lot of these mine projects. So there's going to see, I think you're going to see mining companies showcase the safety that they have, and you're seeing that a lot more and more and more. That's probably what in the last 10 years you've seen a lot more. It's like, this is our safety record, this is how we're doing it, and we want to show you guys how we're successfully and environmentally and geotechnically and just humanely operating mines.
No, fantastic. And Ian, for you as well, maybe more from a mining perspective than an exploration perspective, what do you think the mining industry will look like in the next 10 years or in 10 years from now?
So we talked about why there hasn't been core discoveries, because the market is shifting. We have to recognize there's going to be a shift. So I could give my guess, right? But I don't know, but I know it's going to evolve into something different, right? Because the old pattern was discovery, excitement, right? Development. And sometime during that stage, you get bought by a major, but the majors aren't buying anyone anymore. But there is a demand. So I think there's a real possibility to see more vertical integration within the supply chain. It will be the Teslas of the world that need stuff so desperately that they are going to get more involved. So I do expect, and that also creates the liquidity style event that gets market excited, right? Because there's a big excitement around the discovery. A lot of people are making a lot of money, but then it's hard to maintain an increasing shareholder value in this type of market. It's very difficult. But when they see that end game, I think it's going to start with the car manufacturers, and you're going to see more integration, maybe not actually a single company doing the whole thing, but there's going to be more involved in the offtake projects, and that's going to be a significant change in the industry.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me here on this panel. The rediscovery of discovery. I think we touched on a lot of important points. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming out. And everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the @JR Mining guy on Twitter, and I'm losing my voice. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with lots more here from the CEO.CA stage.